Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today I'm going to give you guys a bit of a review on the upcoming expansion's arena mode. And the reason I can do this is Blizzard actually launched some crazy numbers, a lot of stats in the form of spreadsheets on the occurrence values of every single card moving forward. So it's crazy that we actually have this information. We can see the likelihood of every single card that's going to come up in the upcoming expansion when you play Arena. It's insane that they release this information. They also released the whole bucket system, all of it. Now, it's not compiled particularly well, and with the vast amount of information that we see, I think there's some chance that Blizzard doesn't actually have full control over this stuff, just because it seems insane that they would, that anyone would. Now, you can check out the spreadsheets for yourself, but in this video, I want to give you guys the first practical step to understanding Arena in the Boomsday expansion. Now, it's only the first step, and here's why. We know the likelihood of each of the cards showing up, and we know the bucket systems, and we can kind of cross-reference that and figure out, based on the bucket systems, which card will be picked more often, but it gets really messy given the volume of data that Blizzard has sent out, and also given the fact that we really don't know which cards are going to shine from the new set. We also don't know which cards are going to shine in the overall measure of probabilities of cards. So that might be a weird one to understand, but let's just take a step back and understand Arena today. In today's Arena, board clears and just, small minion removal is offered at completely crazy rates. So, you obviously want some of those cards, but the other cards that are good are cards that are resistant to those cards. So it's a multi-layered meta that really you have to understand. And even when you understand that, cards that are counter meta are also valuable. So this is only the first step. But you guys know how it works. Games that are heavily strategy dependent kind of work with experience and an overwhelming sum of advantages. This is the first advantage that I can give to you guys. I basically went through some of the spreadsheets and I found one that was fairly well compiled that showed the highest likelihood cards for each of the 9 classes. And this is important information because, some of these cards might be placed in the wrong bucket. So even though the number 1 card in appearance might be a specific one, you might not actually play against that too frequently, but probably you will. So these are probably the most likely cards that you are going to encounter in Arena. And I'm sure a few of every single one of these top 10 lists is going to be wrong, but the general understanding of what's happening to the future of Arena is something you guys can take grasp of. They're also coming in with a few widespread changes. So they are making class cards show up 50% less often than their current occurrence boost. So they had I think class cards had a 100% occurrence boost. Now it's dropping to a 50% occurrence boost. And I believe spells had like a 100% occurrence boost as well. I don't know. Spells also had a really high occurrence boost, and that boost, just the boost section, is being halved as well. So you're not going to see as many class cards. You're not going to see as many spells, which means you're going to see more neutral cards, which means you're going to see more mechs, because those are the neutral cards that are coming into Arena, that's coming into the game a few days from now. So there's going to be a lot of mechs. And with that in mind, let's have a look at the probability that each individual card will show up. First off, we have Druid here. So Savage Roar on average will be a 1.467. So just kind of like a random Arena draft, you're going to have Savage Roar in 1.5 decks. That's a lot. Considering the fact there's going to be a lot more minions, a lot more neutral minions, a lot more win more neutral minions through the magnetic archetypes of the game in the upcoming expansion, Savage Roar will put Druid as more of an aggro class. Starfire follows, you can nuke him to the face. Power of the Wild further follows, buffing your already large minion count. Landscaping is more minions. Druid of the Claw's face damage. Wild Growth is kind of an odd one. I expect that card will not be selected very often. Mark of the Wild is the win more card. Cryptlord defends your tokens. Lesser Spellstone is just efficient, and Wrath is just efficient. So from this list, we can have a good understanding of what Druid will look like in the upcoming expansion. It will be a minion token-based archetype where you have minion buffs as finishing cards. So keep that in mind. Then we have Hunter. Hunter has Hunter's Mark, the Secret Generator, some face damage, Bomb Toss, Unleash the Hounds. It's a lot of face damage there. Like, those are a lot of face damage. Even near the bottom of the list, Tundra Rhino is top 10 most occurring cards in the upcoming arena. So again, we're going to see a fairly aggressive archetype from Hunter, but that is what we expect. However, in the current system of Arena, the most common cards are a variety of traps, and including the Spellstone. The Spellstone is not on that list. So Hunter will play different cards, but try to achieve the same goal. Then we have Mage. With Mage, we see Mirror Entity at the top of the list. That's a pretty interesting one, especially with the consideration that Explosive Runes is not too far down. So Mage is going to have a lot of secrets, and they're going to be largely minion interactive secrets, but a lot of people are getting neutral, probably fairly small minions, so it probably is not going to work. In terms of powerful removal cards, none on that list. In terms of powerful board clears, we have Blizzard, but it's all the way at the bottom. So I actually suspect that from this list, that Mage will struggle moving forward in Arena. Mage will be more of a tempo class, but the strength of Mage in the prior years of Hearthstone has not been that it's any one thing. It has been that Mage was a viable aggro deck in Arena, a viable tempo deck, a viable combo deck, and a viable control deck. And you'd draft your arena halfway through, you'd figure out what you're playing, and you'd maximize that. Given this list, more than likely, it looks like you'll be pushed to playing a tempo deck, and the loss of that flexibility should have a pretty sizable drop in the Mage's win rates. So, rip Mage? We'll see. Paladin, we have Sound the Bells at the very top. Hammer of Wrath, a lot of minion interactive cards, small weapons, more minion buffs, more dudes. So, a lot of the same stuff that we've seen before, but as long as Silver Sword is not a high occurrence card, Paladin's win rate will drop considerably. That is like the nail in the coffin card, and in this whole last expansion, it had an absurd occurrence rate among offerings. So, as long as that card doesn't show up very frequently in Paladins are probably also going to have a fairly decent drop in win rates. As for Priest, we see a lot of the same stuff. High occurrence of the Shadow Wards, high occurrence of the board clears, high occurrence of Shadow Madness. I think Priest looks basically unchanged. Right now, though, the idea of playing Priest in Arena is you play a deck with a lot of these same removal options, but then you play a few big drops. You basically are playing Greed Priest. That's why all these cards are so good in that archetype. However, if everyone else is playing tempo and aggressive decks, that archetype might just not be able to compete. So this is kind of a meta-dependent situation for Priest. It's possible that Priest will really struggle, not because it's changing, not because it's weak, but because it probably just can't keep up with some of the aggro options. We'll have to see what the decks look like overall, but Priests moving forward in the next expansion are going to look very similar to the Priests you've been playing for the last few months. Rogues, kind of similar. We see Deadly Poison, a lot of the removals that we've seen in the past, a lot of the weapons and answers that we've seen in the past. Nothing too crazy. You always have to keep in mind that Rogue is a really high skill class in Arena. You can't just randomly play whatever you want when you're playing Rogue. You have to plan out your turns several turns in advance, and that just requires a skill that most new players can't match. Rogue's ability to use a hero power on turn 2, not requiring 2 drops, and thus able to have a really good curve throughout the rest of the game, again, gives you just a massive advantage based on the class itself. So even though there's not much change there, the fact that other people are probably playing more minion-based decks, and Rogue is just Rogue, Rogue's going to be just fine in Arena moving forward. Shaman will be a little bit different. Top of the list will be Crushing Hand. That's a weird one. A lot of removal, a lot of weapons, and notably, even above some of the board clears, we have Bloodlust. Oh boy. Now keep in mind how at odds that list is. So that list is entirely weapons and removal, except for Bloodlust, which requires you to have a lot of minions on the board. So Shaman is very much that right now. It's a difficult balance between having as much removal and as good removal as you need to actually win these games, while having enough minions. And it's been pretty interesting, but it's also been pretty tough to play Shaman. I've certainly done well with it, but there's not going to be any cruise control playing Shaman in the upcoming expansion either. For Warlock, we have, again, a lot of the similar stuff. We see the very high removal occurrence bonuses, but not quite as high as before. Right now, the highest occurrence card in Warlock is Defile, and if you see that list, that is a very low occurrence of Defile, and it's 9th? So, yeah. I think that alone is going to drop the power level of Warlock quite considerably. There are more removal options in the upcoming expansion, but a card like the new Spirit Bomb doesn't work as well in Arena as you think. It might. In Constructed, you can set up synergies for a card like that. In Arena, it just means you're going to die a lot faster most of the time, so be very wary about that. For Warrior, we have Arcanite Reaper at the very top, and I do want to emphasize 1.42 is an extremely high occurrence rate. So it looks like Warrior has extremely high occurrence rates of many different weapons, including the Spellstone, including Slam, including Execute, including Warpath. Holy crap, dude. Now, Warrior has been at the shit end of Arena for years. And I mean, obviously, we don't know the meta. We don't know what everything else is going to look like. We don't know if there's going to be one dominant class in Arena that the other classes have to adjust by. But I can tell you that whole list is totally insane. And the fact that the Spellstone is on there really blows it out of the water. It might be Warrior's time to shine. It's going to be tough to say if they're going to be first because it's been so long since a Warrior has been good that most people that play Hearthstone have no idea how to play the class properly. I barely have an idea how to play the class properly, and I've played plenty of Warrior lately. So it's going to be really interesting. I think the power level of Warrior is going to be really high, but the amount of good players playing Warrior is going to be really low. So fun times ahead with that one. And yeah, that about does it. Overall, I think we're going to have a very interesting Arena meta. The devil is in the details as always, though, so you can't really know for sure. I have to say that on the past few months playing Witchwood Arena, Blizzard has messed with it so much. And the main problem that we've encountered is these decks are just way too strong. And that's something we can't really know because we don't know just the exact power level of the cards that are coming out. I suspect that if there are too many mechs showing up in every single draft, that might actually be quite a problem in terms of managing the power level of Arena decks. But if they're fairly well distributed among other neutral cards that are not mechs, I have to say this Arena meta looks pretty good. So we'll see. Hope you guys have learned something from my analysis of the top most frequent cards in the upcoming expansion in Arena. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.